Hey, Thrand here, and I'm here with the Iron Mountain Armory Kikko Gane Do, or a Manchira armor. What that means is it's an auxiliary armor that's worn under the actual Do from like this Tosei Gusoku that we have tested. This is the Do from that set, and we have tested it extensively. We tested every single weapon, beginning with stuff from the Neolithic age through the Bronze Age, all the way up the age of the Norman Knights and the late century Viking. So we did everything against this armor, and only really late century, like 15th, 16th century longswords were able to really pierce through this. But with this auxiliary armor under it, perhaps they wouldn't be able to. Proper, you know, padding and sarashi and everything. I don't know. We won't know about that right away. But what we want to do is test this out. We've tested it quite a bit in mobility. I mean, I've done quite a bit of mobility testing in this. I even took it out to a LARPing event because it was a request from Michael Astorito over at SamuraiArmor.com, because he was saying that some LARPers might like this. It's a very beautiful armor. It is historically accurate. This is actually steel hexagonal plates, and they're all butted together, but it's very flexible. It gives you massive mobility. You could do anything you could do wearing it or not wearing it. The only thing that would be a little more restrictive is the extra armor, but we've also done a mobility test with these pieces that do not come with this, by the way. This is the Manchira, or the just the auxiliary armor if you look it up on SamuraiArmor.com. And what we want to do is see what it can stop by itself, because there's times when the Do would be removed, just like sometimes one of the kote would be removed if you were doing archery, so that arm would be unprotected. But they were also made in such a way you could still do archery with them and use your kamakata yari or your naginata. Sorry. So you can use all your weapons that you needed the way they're made. So what we're going to do today is we're going to try different weapons, and we're going to stay in the tradition of the channel. We're going to be using European style weapons against the samurai armor. So it should be fun. We're going to find out what this does today and what it takes to penetrate it by itself, and how good an armor it is standalone. This is like from the period around the 16th century of the samurai, where they would have really good steel, and this is one of the methods they use. And the Kikko means that pattern you see on the back of a tortoise shell for protection. It's the hexagonal pattern, and that's what we have here, and it's beautiful. That's all I can say about it. It is a beautiful armor. And let's get started and start hacking into this, hitting it, seeing what it can stop and what it can't. Underneath here, just so everybody knows, we have ballistics gel in our new Manny. That's what Caddy has nicknamed him, the mannequin. And he perfectly holds the gel. We'll have no more of that shifting like we used to have in our Valkyrie, where it'd move around and we had problems with it, and we wouldn't hit the gel. We should be able to hit the gel every time, and it shouldn't move or go anywhere. And we have an extremely thick, huge block that fills up the entire mannequin. So, all right, let's go. All right, we shall start off with a late century Viking sword. This is one of my favorites. It is from Medieval Shop. It's a good sword, but we're going to try hitting right over that ballistics gel and right into this Kikko Gane Do Manchira armor and see what it does. Oh, that hit. It cut. We cut it, but it did not cut through. There is no way that went through. Are the plates damaged in any way? One of them's bent right here. I can feel it, but you can hardly even see that it was cut, and he's perfectly all right. I mean, I can't see that that injured him in any way. We do have, like I said, an indentation where it bent, and it cut fabric, but the fabric kind of is just going back together and you can't tell. So that's pretty amazing. So, I mean, it will stop an edge for sure. That was an excellent cut, So, let's see. Maybe we can throw one right here. This way? What do you think? Somewhere in here? And this would kind of be like hitting over ribs, because we are hitting some of the plastic of the mannequin, which I think will be okay. And just see what it does. I'm curious. Oh! All right. We cut fabric, but we have that same incident here where it didn't do anything to our plates. Our plates are totally intact. It didn't even cut the stitching. It just cut the fabric very low, because this is a razor sharp edge. I could sit here and shave paper with it, you know. So that is nice. I am highly impressed. I do not think a katana, because I mean this sword's not going through, but I do not think a katana even, you know, being curved and you having a little bit of different slicing power, you know, because it actually slices and you have two hands on it. There's no way it's going through. You're not going to be able to cut through it with something like this. Alrighty. What I'm going to say then, why don't we try, let's crank it up a notch before we try thrust or anything like that on it. Let's crank it up a notch and try hitting it with an axe, an ox. We got a Viking axe here. This is actually a style that's been found historically, and it's on a shorter handle. It's got a nice heavy head. Where should I hit it, Caddy? Think up here? Maybe in this area? That's right over the gel. Oh! I think we lost a plate out of that one, but we get to see what they look like. So what we did is effectively these cuts have knocked a plate out. The plate right here actually got knocked out. So these are pretty thick steel. I would say, oh yeah, this is very, very thick. Thicker than I expected. But the axe has done nothing to the armor. It has not pierced him in any way. You would feel that. But I have worn this and I can attest to it from wearing it in LARPing and at the SCA a few times to test it out, to see how durable it was. That getting impacts from it were greatly lessened. Padded jacket or something. It's not completely padded, but if you put some padding under it with this, I doubt you would feel blows in the SCA much at all, you know, with rattan swords. You'd feel them, but not to the degree where you'd be in as much pain. So definitely this thing is doing its job. The only thing I can think of now we might try, because we still have this blade here, I might try a thrust and just see what it does. It didn't go as deep as I would expect, but the thrust went in. This may be a weakness to this Kikko armor without the dole over it. What has happened is we have gone in between the plates. So the plates have not been cut. There's no damage to these plates. We've sliced in between them, spreading some of them apart, and managed to get the tip in. Now, it's going to be very difficult to undo this. It's making it look deeper than it truly is. But we do want to find out. And that's part of the fun of doing these tests. Now I know that thrust would have went all the way through him, the way I thrusted. Caddy, you know that too, right? It would have went out his back, correct? So we want to pull this out. That's how far we got through the actual armor. So we did circumvent it to a degree. But we want to see how deep we made it through our poor samurai. And there is no sarashi. Last time we wrapped the sarashi around it. So we did make it into him. I'm just curious how deep. It splits more than it actually is. About an inch. So what I'm going to say about this, without the armor, he's dead. This would go out his back. It would just kept going. There's nothing that would stop it. With the armor, considering it seems like its weakness is the thrust, and this is a double-edged blade, not like a katana with a single edge and slightly curved, so katana might be stopped even more. We got about an inch in there. I'd say that's about an inch, right, Katie? Mm-hmm. It doesn't look like much more than that. I know it looks like more because you're seeing the split, but it splits as it cuts and it spreads. See how it's trying to split more on me right here? So technically, no, it's only really about that deep, about an inch. An inch is normally not life-threatening, depending on the person. This guy's got so much abs on him, I have no clue. I think his muscles would be cut. But if you had hey, if you drink a little more sake, yeah, I think you'd be okay. I don't know, but yeah, I think that killed our samurai. I don't know, but this spear throw was able to go through. So we're going to go ahead and check this out. We remove this because that's the way it's set up, so it can easily be removed. We need to pull this apart so we can see. It's going to be difficult to see this, but I don't know how to tell exactly how deep. But yeah, it looks like we pretty much have it all the way in. I'm going to have to just pull it out. I just have to pull it out this way and then go back and re-examine it, but that's like all the way. So it made it in between The platelets is what it did. It just slipped in between. It turned, slipped in between, cut its way through. And yeah, that wound is deep. That's all the way in. Yeah, I would say that's a kill. I'm sorry, I didn't expect that from the javelin, but apparently that's what it did. We hit, but that looks like that went in. So it looks like what's going on, it's slipping in between plates. So this one went in, but I don't know how deep. We're gonna have to find out. We have an arrow through it, didn't get pierced. They got pushed out of the way and it made its way through. So this is what we gotta figure out, is how deep we actually got it. In this circumstance, the only thing I know to do is start trying to pull stuff back. We did hit gel, if Caddy wants to take back over so she can watch it and see exactly what we're doing, so we can see how deep we actually got. Ah, there is a flaw here. We may have hit the same wound. It didn't go very deep. I'm going to get this out. No, it's a new wound. It's a new wound, but it literally split the gel. So this means that our impact, what's causing this split, is the air, of course, isn't that broad, right? It went in and did its thing. But what happened is the impact was so great with the force of the impact, and then the plate here literally just moved. That's what happened. It just moved out of the way and let it go through. So if that's what's going on, and it's just they're this moving that easily, I don't think they're tight enough together. I think these plates could stop an arrow, because it didn't damage the plate at all. That's steel. It just hit and it slipped through. That's basically what it did, correct? It hit, slipped its way through. So yeah, these are both these wounds. This one was not as deep as the javelin. The javelin was, I mean, tremendous. This was about that deep, so it's possible to live through that. That might have saved his life. Or if I shoot this gel just like it is, it's going to the back of the mannequin and out the back side. It'll hit the spine. Yeah, and it'll hit the spine. So this stopped it from killing him theoretically, but he was definitely wounded, and he probably wouldn't have wanted to fight anymore if you had a wound about this deep. This is about how deep it went in. And yes, he could have more cloth under this and more padding. You could have way more padding under this. But this is how deep the actual head went in. It went in the length of the head. So that's not good, and that split tells me, because we didn't get the same split from this, but the split from this tells me that was the impact of the power of the bow, because the bow is a 105-pound draw. So that's what we got. All right, I'm going to be using a needle bodkin, or a long bodkin, and see what that does, because that was one of the banes of this armor with a powerful bow in the other videos. But with the Manchira or the auxiliary armor, who knows? Who knows? With the Kikko Brigadine, Japanese Brigadine. I don't think that went through. Maybe that's what this was designed to do. We got a hole in it, but that did not go through. I know that's not in gel. That is pushing on our actual Kikko. The Kikko stuff underneath it. So what I'm saying is, I honestly believe that's what they were thinking of when they were using the lighter, the modern steels with the lighter gauges, the 18 to 20 gauge plates, really good steel. That's probably what they were wearing it for, kind of like wearing mail under early plate mails, what people call it, or mail under plate, because the plate wasn't 100% reliable. It was too close to the body. It wasn't fashioned in such a way. A lot of times this wouldn't be that close to the body, but this did its job. He is safe, I guarantee you. He might have felt the thump under there and the push, but it stopped it. Excellent. We'll go right on to a leaf shape. Oh! And I would say that one got stopped as well. That got stopped as well. It went through. And what it's doing, you could see the gel give. You could see as I push on it, you could see the flesh give. So what it's doing is it's going through, but the dole is slowing it down enough that the Kikko, it doesn't hit solidly and slide off and get in between the seams. If they don't hit dead center on a Kikko, I'm pretty sure, and bite into it, it's going to slip through every time. But under here, this is impressive. This is working, and these were wounds in the other video. With this powerful bow, these were wounds in the other video. So we're doing good. This was the 105-pound longbow here. Most Yumi were only about 90 pounds at the highest. I mean, I'm sure there's probably always historical anomalies, but usually they're anywhere from 70 to 90 pounds for war bows. Sometimes lighter. This is a 130-pound bow, 130-pound bow, full draw, 32 inches. I may not get it quite to 32, but we know it's going to be over 100 pounds. The other was at 105 because I drew it all the way each time. So we were hitting for at least about 105. These bows are self bows, and over time, they've tilled themselves slightly. I mean, I know that sounds crazy, but they tend to, they can actually get a little weaker. So we know the other one's about 105 pounds at the full draw. This one's probably going to be pretty stout. So let's see, 130, I'll see how far a draw I can get back on it. We're going to do it with the needle bodkin and try again. Oh, now that stayed in there, much better. We'll see what we got. I'll go ahead and carry the bow with me. Do I think that's a kill? It's done the same thing. It's done the same thing. That is not in the gel. See how it's pushing out? It pushed the gel in, so it may have some bruising underneath that. It didn't make it through. And I know for a fact that this bow, if we used it in the other videos, if I remember probably, did we use it? I can't remember if we used the 130. Did not do this. Check this out. You want to show a close-up of this, what it's doing? It was in like that, wedged in. I'll show them what it did. It seems that it might have gone a little deeper. These are waxed in, so to stop abruptly caused it to, it's a hard, heavy wax-like substance used to hold it in. So it actually separated. Let's go ahead and set our stuff to one side here. Check that other camera. And we're going to need to see what that does. If it did something, it'll be amazing. I don't think we have an outright kill because of the depth, but we know that's a long bodkin. Did it pierce?
It went into the cloth a little bit. Looks like it may have made a little tiny...
Nothing.
No, it didn't.
This, when I came up and as soon as I released it, we got that effect. So I don't need to look under here. This is not making it through. Oh, it might have made it through slightly. I just felt it come out slightly, but it made it in this much. So it must have made it, it slipped and went in between, but it made it in that much. That is not a kill. That is a very small, what?
Got parts having a problem?
Yeah, very small amount right there. Very small indeed. A little bit on the tip. I might try the leaf too, but I'm very impressed. That's a 130-pound draw bow. With the Manchira, or the auxiliary armor, it's actually able to stop this. So, Michael Esterita, I have to stand corrected. You are right. Stand alone, this type of power and thrusting, you know, from a 105-pound bow, 90 to 105-pound bow, no, it's not going to save you totally. It may slow the arrow down. It may stop it. You know, you might get an inch and a half penetration or deeper. You could get deeper. It depends on how it hits this thing and hits in between the Kikko. But with the actual Tosei Gusoku Yoroi, and this one's been damaged before, and we're repairing it. We're going to come back, and this is all going to be completely repaired. The way we're going to do that is we're going to use silver. Brazing is be more accurate. We're using pure silver, so it's brazing. It's going to be much harder than a solder. It will be as strong as it was because I'm going to put a nice bead on the back side and polish the front side off with sanding, so I can repaint it and try to match this paint and make it look brand new, including that kabuto that suffered so badly and kept the samurai alive so long. That's going to be repaired too. It's going to look beautiful when I get done. I got a video for you on that one. We're going to go ahead and use that leaf-shaped blade with the more powerful bow, the 130-pound bow, and I'll get a full draw. Oh, I glanced off the dough, and that's why it's shaped that way. We glanced off the dough and got caught up. We got caught up in the actual cloth of the arm, which could happen with this powerful bow. hitting and skipping. It hit and skipped on the actual doe itself. So the doe shape did what it was supposed to do, just like a breastplate you'd have in Europe or anything. It caused it to glance, and the cloth was more than enough to catch the arrow. So that's amazing. 130-pound arrow. Right, Caddy? And that's what it's supposed to do if you don't get a dead-on hit. It's supposed to glance. So that is beautiful. That was a good test. I'm leaving that in there. Don't edit that out. Oh! Now that was a powerful shot, but I do think we got the same result. This one might be the only one that could have made it through, maybe. It's doing the same thing. Come check it out, Caddy. They gotta see this. The auxiliary armor really works underneath the doe. I don't care if it's this was his prototype and not made as well. Just remember that. You're gonna get something so much better than this. This was an old version, but see how it's just, that is not in the body, correct, Caddy?
That is not in the body.
That stopped. It's doing its job. As long as it's hitting our doe and having to cut through this, and these are new spots, I'm not hitting the old spots, but even if I did, it didn't go in the body, so I'm extremely impressed. That is amazing. 130-pound bow, leaf-shaped arrow, and a needle or long bodkin. And of course his steel's really good, so it even damaged these things are not that hard. They're hardened, but they're not that hardened. Yeah. It even damaged the point a little bit, so that is awesome. It did its job, and it did its job well. All right, I'm sure everybody agrees that the most devastating video against the Tosei Gusoku, and this is not Tamashii Gusoku, meaning musket tested or tested against an arquebus, you know, an actual early firearm. This is not 2.5 millimeters thick, it's 18 gauge. It's not a, you know, it's a little over a millimeter thick. It is not 3 millimeters thick. They had stuff that thick. No, nothing's going through that. Not the half sorting, not the arrows I shot, or anything. Only thing that has a chance is a firearm, and sometimes it could, but mostly it puts dents in it of that period. This is not that. But now, Michael Asarita has sent me this Manchira armor, and this is what he's assured me, that with it under it, he thinks the test that was the most devastating to it and literally killed our samurai, because we had like a thrust in it like over 3 inches deep. I mean, it was something like this or something, you know, that I pulled out. But I mean, I found out it was a little less than that, because when I checked it later, you know, there's some padding, and the breastplate is not right against the mannequin, especially the other mannequin we had, because it was a female mannequin. It was our Valkyria. This is our male mannequin. He's huge. So we're going to go ahead and try our half sorting. We're going to give it a really good one. We're going to see if we could pierce through the plate, which I'm sure we can because we've done that before, but let's see what difference that the Kikko Gane Dole, or the Manchira armor, which means auxiliary armor, can do. So we're really curious. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. I'm using a glove because I have to go to work tonight, and you normally, if you hold it properly, you're not going to get cut badly doing this if your hand does not slip and you do it right. But, I mean, don't try this at home. Not advocating you do this, but I'm just saying I'm wearing a glove so I don't get any cuts at all, because it's just painful even if they're just minor, minute cuts, like little bitty things on your hand. It's still not, even though you wouldn't care in battle if you had to do it, but normally you would have a linen glove or a leather gauntlet, normally a linen glove, and that's enough normally. So let's go ahead and see what we can do. Do I make sure that I hit it in a spot we have not hit? Have to. Did I do it again? We are into it some. I think that was a fresh hole, but it stopped it because it's pushing back. It's pushing back. The Kikko is pushing back against it. So yeah, that didn't make it all the way in. It just pushed the gel in. Well, it might have bruised it, but that did not go into him because of the Kikko. It only went in about that deep. Remember, there's some distance in between there, and it's just pushing in on it. But that was a fresh hole, so it took a lot more energy out of my thrust, and it took energy out of my thrust. We're not going to stand at that because that's not fun. You know, you want to hit an area you know is good and really good, and yeah. And this is Samuel Bokich's longsword. I don't know if I mentioned that, and it's the one we used in the Witcher video. We didn't even get in with that one. We didn't even get in with that one. If you enjoyed our episode, our half sorting thrust didn't go anywhere as deep as it did before, and it didn't go into the gel. It's pushing back. So definitely, that was amazing. Come off the dull. We're removing the dull. Chad's got that there. Are you okay, Kay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
I got to undo this one if you can help me.
Give me half a sec to get the dough out from behind him.
No.
It's jammed against. Thank you.
Okay. This is what we want to look at first. Let's see what kind of things we got on here. Other than some of it, like here, you can see where it hit the plate. Here you can see where it hit the plate. Look, it actually put a dent in the plate. We could see what happened here, why that didn't go through. That plate has a dent in it, right? Mm-hmm. So it wasn't able to go through there. I'm trying to see how many we have into the gel through it. I'm not seeing a bunch. It still looks really good. It looks really wearable, really fashionable still. I mean, you can do a little stitching and stitch this up, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to repair it so I can still wear it because I still enjoy wearing it. Works good at the Society of Creative Anachronism. A little more padding there, like I said, some gambeson. If you get the thicker model that he has with the actual padding built in, it'd be awesome. If it's not this hot, it's like 100 and something degrees out here. We're going to remove this, but we're going to undo this and look and see what kind of damage we got today. So we did put padding on him to make up for that, and last time we used the Sarashi. So without the Sarashi, it wouldn't have been a fair test. And we got to get in here and untie his kimono. This one here, was from one of our tests when he had no dull. There's a little wound here, but it's not deep. It's like a score, right? Mm-hmm. Something went in here, a hair. That's not enough to kill anybody or hurt them. You can tell it won't even open up. It's cut it lightly. But you can see, with the dull over it, this is impressive. It's done really well. Next time I'll try to have a little more gel in here, but you still have to have some room to get your fingers in and stuff, take it out. So I think this turned out excellent. It works like it's supposed to. It does what it's supposed to. This was an excellent video. I enjoyed it. Thank you very much. Iron Mountain Armory. I think they go by samuraiarmor.com exclusive now. Thank you, Michael Astorita. You were 100% correct. I mean, I didn't see it when I was shooting at it. I'm gonna be honest, when I was loosing arrows at it with, you know, out just a kimono and just did on a kimono and that's it. It seemed lackluster from the piercing, but those bows are so powerful. They're more powerful than most any Japanese bow you would run into. So this episode's basically been nightly half sorting, maybe Viking age strong bows and late century English long bows like from the Mary Rose period against samurai armor is basically what we've done. And we used a Viking age sword, a late century Viking age sword, or a arming sword, and we threw a spear at it. We threw a javelin. I mean, those are always classical through history, and a full spear thrown, I can't think of any more force. So what this thing's put up and done, I'm impressed with it, but giving it a score on cutting, I'd say it's a 10 or possibly an 11. You cannot cut through that. To do the pattern, doing the Kikko pattern, there is no way. If you were wearing that for just dueling and it's to stop slashes and cutting from katanas, you're good. Nothing, not a problem whatsoever. But if he's got a Kisarigama or he's going to focus on his thrusting skills, he might get you. But with the dull, I think it's impenetrable. I mean, it's basically the chance of you getting injured through it is very, very low. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed our episode. Be sure and check out all our new shorts and videos. Help us out if you can on Patreon, and be sure and check me out streaming on Twitch. See y'all later, and farewell. If you want to help support the channel, go by streamelements.com and sport a Thrand YouTube shirt. Plus, there's many more items. You can come visit me on Twitch, Thrand11. I do extreme gaming every night after 12 a.m. CST, US time. You can become a patron on Patreon and help support the channel and see content that can only be seen there.